Hi, my name is Greg Beckett, Motivational Hypnotist, and this is a new episode of Time to Get Unstuck. We have a great guest today. It's Dr. Antonia Darder. And before we get started with all that, first of all, this is a really cool episode because we're here together. And I'll tell you more about her, but I want to talk about our sponsor, who is Hypnothoughts Live 2019, which is a great conference in August for hypnotists, or people interested in hypnosis, or people such as myself that are already hypnotists, and you make friends with new colleagues and things like that. You've never been.
No.
But you know that I always go.
Yeah, I know.
And I also teach there. So if you get the opportunity, there may be something to click down below, not quite sure, but you'll see if there is, to go to Hypnothoughts Live and find out more information, or just Google it. And it's a lot of fun. We even have a night of bowling and just different things of camaraderie and learning and growing and finding your tribe. So when you get a chance, again, Hypnothoughts Live 2019. And today, well, as you know, okay, Time to Get Unstuck is really about moving forward. And we take, I take from my journey and my clients and things like that and friends, that these words that constantly come up. And I have a guest who picks a word, and that's what we work on or talk about during this episode. So Dr. Antonia Darder is, let me see if I get all this right, she's the Endowed Chair of Ethics and Leadership at Loyola Marymount University. She's an author, she's an artist, she's an international speaker, and she's also my aunt. And I need to say something to my aunt for the moment, which she has no clue. First of all, we're here together, which is really cool. My aunt, we are going to talk about the word forgiveness. And she and I have been through a lot of things together in our life, of growth and challenges and love and anger and not understanding and all these sorts of things. And I want to say right now to everybody listening or whatever, I want to say to her, thank you for always hanging in there. Because I'm not easy. I'm not always easy because I'm growing and I have to go through my steps. So, so welcome, Auntie. So forgiveness.
Yes.
Yes. That's what we got is
That's
yes.
what we got.
You know what? Okay, I'll start off. I should ask a question, or what does forgiveness mean to you?
Yeah. You know, I think this issue of forgiveness has become more and more essential in my life and central to my life, especially where I am today. And the reason for it is because we often think that forgiveness is about, you know, forgiving other people. It's about forgiving, you know, or wanting people to say they're sorry to us so then we can forgive them. And putting, without even realizing, putting conditions on whether you forgive a person or not. And so for me, what the issue of forgiveness has really become is something about my self-love. My capacity to forgive is because I love myself and because I understand that forgiveness is really for me. I can't control what other people think, what other people do, or even how they respond to me. But I do have a control of my own life. That's the one thing that I can do something about. I can begin to deal with, you know, the things inside of me that I've not forgiven. And the reason I say that it's more essential is that often all of the issues of forgiveness that happen out here in the world are really, they appear as elements of forgiveness inside of us in places that we haven't forgiven ourselves. And it's kind of crazy to think about it that way, because we're always taught to think about it as something external rather than forgiveness being a process within. So for me, it's an incredible process of learning to love ourselves and to begin to fully accept ourselves, because we're unable to forgive ourselves or anybody else unless we can truly accept who we are as being exactly where we need to be at this moment, and understanding that other people are in that same place.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I guess that's a big mouthful.
Well, I was kind of going, okay, where, you know, I got to jump in here, but I don't know where I'm going to jump in as I set our timer. I was thinking while you were saying that, because, you know, I mean, we have a lot of these conversations together when we're going through things, and we don't just talk about, oh, how's the weather? We talk about heavy duty stuff. And when you're talking about forgiveness, and it's actually almost like that mirror that people talk about, what you don't like in someone else is actually what you don't like about yourself. But you're saying it's the same thing with forgiveness.
Right. And that all the things that we think about people, you know, needing to forgive people either or that we put it outside of us. We put
it's a thing.
We put it, you know, the sense, the process of forgiveness, however you want to think of it, whether a process or an experience of forgiveness, we think of it as being outside of ourselves. And what I've come to understand, I think the reason, maybe if I use an example, there's a couple of examples.
You can use
very personal example.
I know one right now, but
yeah, you probably would. Well,
you can use it.
We're
I'm going to say this. Let me say this. Let's see if it's the same one.
It sounds good.
At one time, a few years ago, I was really working on myself. I had some stuff going on. My father passed away. There's a lot of changes in my life. And I made some changes that I feel like, and you could correct me on this, you didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't apologize for them either. Because for me, it was about what I needed. Is that correct where I'm going?
Yeah.
It's what I needed. And that's why I say she stuck in with me, because it's what I needed. And it changed how our relationship had always been, but it actually, I think, ultimately has grown from it. But you were looking for an apology from me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't give it to you.
Right. I think what the
Does
way
that make sense?
That absolutely makes
Okay.
sense. I mean, because the way that I experienced it was that something had shifted in our relationship. And I didn't realize that part of what had shifted is that at that point, you needed all of yourself. You didn't have anything to give to other people. You needed it for you. And I was so used to it always being there that in some ways I had taken it for granted. But more than that, I had begun to expect it. In some ways, when we get to the point that we're expecting it, then we actually have lost a little bit of sense of appreciation for what it is, and that the fact is that people have to give themselves freely. It can't be an expectation. They have to have the room to give themselves, whether they want to or not give themselves, if that's not what they're there to do. So my own growth, what it did for me, that whole process that we went through.
And let me tell you something, it was a process like a year and a half or 2 years. And this is the first time I'm hearing this perspective of it, which is lovely to hear, because you've never told me that you realized that you had come to expect it from me, that it was an expectation.
Yeah.
And for me, I was just trying to, like you said, take care of myself. I didn't have anything left. I needed to figure out how I could still be with people, but still respect myself, right?
And so the process was interesting because I didn't get there. That wasn't the first place I got to.
Right.
The first place that I was at was really feeling hurt.
Right.
Like I felt hurt. And I took it really personal, right? And so then I got to the point where I thought, well, if you say you're sorry, then I'm going to be able to forgive you.
And just so you know, I said I'm not apologizing. I literally said, I have nothing to apologize for. I did, right?
And you absolutely did. And of course, because my way is to try to respect the people I love, even when I'm not sure that I agree with what's going on or that I understand what's going on. What I did is I stuck with it. And as I stuck with it, what it did is it opened new places in me. And it made me see that issue, that actually I was setting up an expectation. So rather than our relationship being this love that we share together that's open and free, where you feel like you can be who you are, and I can feel that is
telling me no or
exactly.
yes, but and we know that it's the truth, not because it's expected of us, being authentic in our relationship of how we are.
That's right. And you know, so often we're not honest. I mean, that's the one thing that I really learned is that I thought myself being so honest, that I was such an honest person in relationships. And I learned so much from our struggle and our conflict. What I learned was that I lied a lot, and I didn't lie maybe, in overt ways. The covert ways I lied because...
And I must have too. I'll say I did too, because there's things sometimes I would do that I'm like, do I really want to do this? No, but I'm going to do it to make them happy, and not necessarily you when we're talking about, but making other people happy, our families and things like that, or friends or partners, and then we're not really being authentic.
We're not.
And it's not allowing the other person to grow if we're holding ourselves back, or is it really worth the argument? But I'm telling you, we had a really hard time.
And it was 2 years. I mean, there were moments where I thought, I mean, I actually used to think I'm never gonna feel connected, because what it was is that I was setting an expectation in order to feel connected, and it was false. It was a false expectation. And the truth of the matter is that we couldn't get to the place that we're now if I wasn't willing to let go of that expectation and see how false it was to set up. I was setting, and not only you, when I realized, you know, I would set my children up, I would set, you know, I set the men that I'd been in relationships with up. I didn't do this consciously.
It's not conscious.
But unconsciously, in fact, I was. And I was because I was using it as a protective mechanism, because we create all sorts of protective coping mechanisms
from our youth,
from our childhood,
exactly, all that kind of stuff. And I think of it as I've changed a lot from it, because it was the first time for me to really, even though I have parents and they had just, all of them had just passed my parental unit and stuff, and even though we're very close and similar in age, she's still an elder for me in many ways, and I know that we respect each other, but I was separating from all of what everybody thought I should be to become who I want to be, right?
And you needed yourself.
So
at that time.
But she hung in, right? She hung in, which is a huge deal for me, because that was showing me love to still be me. And I, you know, it was hard. They can bleep that non-bleep if they want to. It was hard. To hold my ground. Look, she's tough. I don't care. She's tough. You think I'm tough? She's tough. She's tough. You know, and we all have our own ways of trying to get what we need and what we want. And
that's a really important point, because what I also realized is that I was trying to manipulate you.
I didn't let you.
You didn't let me. And I am so grateful. If there's somebody you love and they don't let you manipulate them, that's the person you want to engage with. That's the person that's going to help you grow. Not somebody who doesn't see that you're manipulating and that you're playing them. And I say we do this unconsciously, but at some point we have to become conscious, right? I mean, we can't grow unless we become conscious of all these little mechanisms that we've created that are actually interfering with moving forward. They're interfering our capacity to break through so many of you know,
change, just all this change that we're talking about, and getting unstuck of the same patterns over and over. We have to recognize them. And there's a book that you gave me 20-something years ago, which is my book, meaning my book. It's the book I go to. Wait, I'll even pull it up. It might be a promo for somebody like Don Miguel Ruiz, and I have it all tabbed and stuff. I give it to my clients when I see them, so we have a language. And she gave me this book, which I'll always be grateful for. And we're really talking about not taking things personally, and not making assumptions, and that allows us to see our challenges and move through them. You know, and when I talk about this and giving this to my clients, I'm talking about we have a language to talk, so that when we do hypnosis, when we do the work that's very quick, sometimes quick, maybe sometimes not so quick. It depends on the person and the willingness, right? But hypnosis is getting to that subconscious and those old memories and old patterns, and helping them to be released and not just have triggers that are stuck that we don't even know where they come from. So, and we've even worked together on some of that. I don't know what she's going to say. Go ahead.
I know we don't have a whole lot of time.
No, we got time. You just say.
All right. But I think what you just said for me right there is so important in respect to, I've gone through a lot of things in my life, and you know, I mean, my life has been really, really rocky, and there was just a lot of stuff early on, a lot of early
You're talking about development, like kid
right,
stuff.
as a small
young adult,
child,
yeah.
the separation from my father, my mother's schizophrenia and alcoholism, dealing with sexual abuse from the age of 6 to 8, and all of the stuff that entails. So I want to take that forgiveness to another level, in the sense that what I have come to understand is that my capacity to forgive others is completely linked to my capacity to forgive myself and forgive the early
something's popping in my head, because we talk like this all the time, is that we're talking about forgiveness, but when you learn that all the stuff that happened, because I have my own stuff, everybody has their own stuff, right? And that's why we're trying to grow through things that were given to us that we needed to learn to become, I don't want to, you know what, I'm going to use a different word. No, let's just scratch that and go this. Look, this is what I'm going to say is, I like who I am, but I've worked to like who I am. And so I have to be appreciative of all the stuff that I've been through, just like you've said to me before, that you've learned to now appreciate those experiences. Not that, oh, I'm glad that, you know, I had this mom, or my parents didn't understand me, or whatever, I was ridiculed, or whatever it is, but I can appreciate that how it molded me to be the person that I am. And you can choose to have, I did a lot of self-victimization. Mm-hmm. Is like what I like to say. When I was growing up, I was told things about myself or whatever, and I bought into it. So, oh, why don't people like me? What's all? But I would turn it in on myself, right? So I had to like forgive myself more than anybody, which is what you started off saying in the first place, to where that nobody else matters, because it's really about our own perspective of ourselves, in my viewpoint, that we really learn to grow and get solid. Because if you trust yourself and that you believe, whatever it is, your higher power, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whatever it is, right? Whatever that belief is for you, if you have that belief system and you trust in that, which is a part of you, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Okay, so with that, I mean, absolutely. And what we think often that we can leap. Like we try to leap.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like.
Oh, now.
There is a bunch of mess right there, right? And we keep trying to find the way to go around it and jump over it. And what I, at this point in my life, what I realized is like, you just got to be willing to go through it.
Right. I say that all to clients and stuff. I talk about the fear that's the only sin there is, because that's against ourselves, and that it can be as thin as air or as thick as the universe, but it's only in our head.
Right.
And that fear of whatever it is always what's holding us back. It's always fear, and you have to flip what it is into the positive to move forward.
But so much of it is also our capacity to use our emotions in empowering ways. And that often, we talk about that because we know that we have to always recognize there's a connection between our mind, our thoughts, and our emotions. And our emotions are there for a reason. The universe that created us, I mean, they have a purpose. And so in terms of forgiveness, what happens is that often, in order to truly forgive ourselves fully, we have to kind of within ourselves. You don't even have to do anything with anybody out there, but you have to forgive. You do have to forgive those who you believe betrayed you, because in the process of forgiving, what it does is it brings you back to yourself.
Well, then it goes into what was our part in it.
That's right. Well, and what was the purpose? And I think something you said was really, I think, I've come to so resonate with, that it's this sense that I went through this horrendous stuff when I was a kid. But at the point when I was able to get to this place of kind of forgiving the characters in my life, the people that I felt had hurt me, what I realized is that, wow, wasn't that really magnificent in terms of how it set me up for greatness? And I don't mean that in a really I mean it, in the greatness of love and the capacity to love, the willingness to persevere.
Do you think if all of those things didn't happen, would you have been so, I don't know what the word for it is, but that drive, that
right.
to become something more than that,
Mm.
to be an author, to be an artist, to be an international speaker, to be a wonderful aunt, to be a good mother, to all of these things, because I've seen you in the years that we've spent together here in California. It's been like 28, 30 years.
30 years.
And that's all we really know each other, because we didn't grow up together kind of thing.
Yeah.
So all the changes we both have been through, and that's how we're similar, right?
Yeah.
Do you think you would have done? Answer this, and then we're gonna. Do you think you would have done as much?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, if I'm really honest, I don't know, because we really can't tell. I mean, I would have been perhaps something else. However, I feel gratitude.
Yeah.
I feel grateful for all the things I've gone through, because for whatever reasons, I don't even want to, we don't have time to get into all of them.
Because the alarm went off.
Because alarm went
and
off.
we got to give but you feel gratitude.
But I feel absolutely thankful, because they've made me who I am.
Yes, and there we go. So I have to say something else really quickly, is that I want to know, I'd like you to come back.
Okay.
And we'll talk some more. And we'll also get a chance. You are starting a whole new phase. And we have to do this really briefly. The Dolly Institute,
Right.
Which is what?
Daring Acts. It's an institute, and what Dolly stands for is Daring Acts of Love and Inspiration. And it's information.
Okay.
At this point, I'm in the process.
And
of
if people wanted to find you, it would be?
I think right now you could find me through my LMU, Loyola Marymount University email, and from there we could start a conversation and then move forward.
And Facebook, they can find you
and
too.
Facebook, I mean, it's on Facebook as well, yeah.
And then you can find me on Facebook, Greg Beckett. Also, you can Greg at hypnosisla.com. And there may be some more information at the end of this. So, and there may be something down below. I'm not quite sure. I think so, for Hypnothoughts Live. If you want more information, that would be great. I think that's going to be put in. So thank you so much for being here, my aunt, and hanging in. And I look forward to chatting with you again. And to all of you, we look forward to having you tune in again. Thanks so much.